Good evening, everyone. This is Victor Ruiz from Getting Healthy Today. I'm here tonight to give you a Facebook presentation. Last night, I talked about how to overcome your fear of change. Hopefully you saw that. Please check it out here at Getting Healthy Today. And if you want to get in touch with me, of course, go to Getting Healthy Today on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can reach out to me. And also, you can reach out to me after this broadcast at vruiz@comcast.net. I'll be talking to you a little bit about some giveaways I might be able to give you later on, and also talk to you about how you can become a preferred customer, or even someone like myself who's a business builder and is enjoying being an entrepreneur. So today I wanted to talk to you about a pretty exciting topic, anxiety. How many of you out there are unfortunately either suffering from anxiety or trying to deal with anxiety? So tonight I'm going to try to explain to you a little bit about some of the traits that perpetuate anxiety. And it's taken from a great book that I read. It's called the Anxiety and Phobia Workbook. And that book is by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Edmund Bourne, B-O-U-R-N-E. And he's a great resource. He's a PhD. He wrote the entire book. It talks a lot about phobias, fears, your core fears, how to deal with your past and dealing with that, and how to overcome that so you don't get stuck in the past. So the whole book even has visual imagery. Okay, I think we're back. I know we had some technical difficulties. All I was saying, if you missed that, is basically that that book has a variety of different topics that would definitely interest you. If you suffer from phobias, anxiety, anything like that, it's really a great book. Gives you a lot of in-depth knowledge that you may not have had before. So it would be great to check that book out. So today I want to talk to you about the 4 traits. I'm going to tell you what the 4 traits are. And then I'd like to kind of go through those 4 traits as much as possible, as time permits. But before that, I want to say thank you for being here. I know time is essential. Time is very important. Time is more important than money. Just remember that. Your time is valuable, and it's more valuable than your money. Yes, time is more valuable than your money. Just think about that. Your time is important to me, so I don't want to, I don't want you to waste your time. So I'm definitely going to try to promote value to you tonight about anxiety. So the 4 traits that I want to talk to you about that comes from that book is basically, 1 is perfectionism. That is one of the first traits that anxiety tends to have. Now, number 2 is a person has an excessive need for control. They have to have that control. Without that control, they don't feel that their life is going in the right direction. Number 3, they have this excessive need for approval of others. They have to have other people's opinions and other people's approval in order for them to make a decision. So these are the people that tend to be extremely indecisive and not able to make that idea like, all right, I want that. Especially if you go to a restaurant with them, they may have that indecisiveness. They may want to know what you think is good on the menu rather than what they think. So they may need your approval. There are some tendencies that people have, and it's considered to have codependency tendencies, codependency relationships. If you don't know what that means, codependency really just means that you value other people's opinions rather than yourself, and you need that person in your life in order to function. So it's an unhealthy way of relating to people, but you need that constant approval from them. Now, the 4th one is ignoring physiological, or if you want to say physical symptoms such as fatigue, nausea, all the different symptoms that you would feel if you felt rigidness, anything like that, that would constitute that you're having an anxiety experience. You totally ignore that. And also you would ignore the psychological symptoms of that, and that creates a problem as well. So those are the 4 traits that perpetuate anxiety. So number 1, perfectionism. Number 2, excessive need for control. Number 3, excessive need of approval from other people. And number 4, ignoring physiological or physical, that's another word for physiological, physical, and psychological signs of stress. So you just totally avoid those signs of stress as a result of that. So the first one is perfectionism. Now, perfectionism has two aspects. In my notes, it says, first, you have the tendency to have expectations about yourself, others, and life, and that are unrealistically high. Second, you tend to be overly concerned with the small flaws and mistakes in yourself. So you have a problem with making mistakes so much that you continuously work on making sure everything is just right when it doesn't really have to. You tend to have a stronger sense of achievement to the point where you can't really do anything without having everything just in its place the way you want it and all that. So in your mind, it's not good enough. So you do something, it's never good enough. So you have this perfectionistic tendency. And of course, having that pressure constantly is just always going to give you that feeling of anxiety and that feeling of overwhelm, and you're not able to, almost like you're getting suffocated. So it's really important that you don't find yourself getting into those kinds of thoughts, because that really puts a barrier in the way you can think in a more healthier way. So a lot of times people don't recognize this until someone brings it to their attention, maybe as a therapist or a psychiatrist, somebody that is closer to the person that can tell them that what they're doing is unhealthy, because the person may not even know that they're acting in an unhealthy manner. So unless someone points it out to you, you're not going to know this. Now, the other thing, let me just check my notes here, sorry about that. The other thing is, just to let you know, it's impossible to be perfect. So, I mean, nothing wrong with going after perfection, but be realistic about it. You know, there's things that you're not going to be perfect. Sometimes we're just going to have to accept certain things that are not going to be exactly the way we envision it, but it may be just good enough. And that's really a security thing. You have to be secure that what you've put out is of quality and is a sound to you. It's good for you. But that is the problem with most people in this situation, that it's not good enough. So they have a false or a mistaken belief that what they're doing is not good enough. So that's a problem, and that's something that you have to be aware of. It also, you know, perfectionism is definitely an issue with your self-esteem. It's number one issue that creates low self-esteem in other people. Every time perfectionism counsels you that you should, have to, or must, you tend to push yourself too much in the forward direction, and you put yourself into a more anxious state of mind. Rather, your natural desire and inclination is to do more and more. Now, overcoming perfectionism requires sometimes professional help, but a fundamental shift in your mindset, in your attitude towards yourself, and allowing yourself to almost breathe, so you're not like putting so much pressure that you can't even function. You have to allow yourself some breathing in that situation. Now, one of them is 7 guidelines, and I'm going to give you to you. One of them is letting go of the idea that your worth is determined. So, our outer accomplishment may be how society measures a person's ability. But be careful of what you allow to tell you what is good or bad, because maybe it's a little bit, it impacts you. Be willing to recognize and affirm that you are lovable and acceptable as you are, and that there is no issue with that. Number 2, recognize and overcome perfectionistic thinking styles. Perfectionism is expressed in the way you talk to yourself. Now, the idea of putting words like should, must, always, those are all perfectionistic tendencies and overgeneralizations that create this idea of perfectionism and this sense of anxiety that comes about you. So an example of an all or nothing thinking is, I just can't do it. I can't just do it at all. And the counter statement would be, if I break it down a bit, then I will be able to do it. So I make it into smaller parts, then I'm able to actually do something with it. Now, number 3, if you stop magnifying the importance of small errors. So stop magnifying the importance of small errors. Sometimes we really get hung up on these small little factors that really don't really matter at the end of the day. They're not something that is really necessary to worry about. So one of the most problematic aspects of perfectionism is this idea that small flaws or errors have to be removed. Perfectionists are prone to come down very hard on themselves for a single minute mistake that they make, and there is no immediate consequences that let alone but they have long-term effects. So even though that happens, they should realize that it's not that big of a deal. But this is their mindset. So they have to be able to change that at some point, but it takes time, of course. Excuse me. Number 4, focusing on the positives. Now, a person in the perfectionistic tendency of thinking, they have to think about the small errors and mistakes are not as big, and they need to not get into the habit of discounting their positive accomplishments. Now, it says, as an example, pay attention to whether you disqualify something positive with the word but. For example, I had a good practice session, but I became anxious near the end. Learn to leave the word but out of your assessments and your attitudes and behaviors. So, I had a good day, but it didn't go the way I wanted to, or something to that effect. You get what I'm saying, probably, right? You understand what I'm saying, probably, on that. Number 5, work on goals that are realistic. A lot of times people tend to do more of like dreaming and not being realistic in their approach to things. So if you're not at a certain level in doing something, don't say that you can do something when you're not ready to do it. So when you make goals, make sure they're realistic in nature. So are your goals realistic and attainable, or have you set them way too high? So if the bar is set too high, again, that's going to create more anxiety, more perfectionistic tendencies. It also can be helpful to do a reality check to determine whether your goal is realistic and attainable and is able to be strived for. Now, are you experiencing too much of yourself and the world? You may need to adjust some of your goals a bit in with the limiting factors of time, energy, and resources. Acceptance of personal limitations. So one of the things that perfectionistic individuals don't do is they don't accept their limitations, their drawbacks, things that they can't do. They're not able to do that. Number 6, cultivate more pleasure and recreation in your life. Do you have activities and hobbies that you are constantly going about doing? Sometimes we forget what things we enjoy doing. And one of the things that is important is to create more pleasurable activities in your life. That helps with perfectionistic tendencies. So perfectionism has a tendency to make people rigid and self-denying. Your own human needs get sacrificed in favor of the pursuit of external goals. So the person's idea of just going for those goals externally just takes them away from really having a good time. So they get really rigid. So that's one way of changing that. Now the next one is develop a process orientation. In your life in general, are you playing to win or channeling your energy to excel at all costs? Maybe just doing the actual behavior is a win, not necessarily being perfect in your actions all the time, but by being a part of the process. So when they're in a job, they're looking to be their job to be very perfect, but yet what they should be thinking about is how well did they do the process of their work, rather than every single detail being perfect. They still did quality work, but they don't think so. So it's, they don't even want to listen to their boss saying, hey, you did a good job, that was quality work, but they don't believe that. They think they're lying to them. Okay, so let's go to the second trait. That was within the first trait, believe it or not. So the next one is excessive need for approval. And that is when we have a problem of needing the approval of others, and we're overly concerned with that. And because we have an inner sense of feeling of flawness, that we're flawed in some way. So we need someone else's ability to tell us, hey, you're doing a good job or you're not doing a good job. We can't see it for ourselves. We lack that insight. Now, so it says, if people really saw who they were, they wouldn't accept me. If people saw who I was, they wouldn't accept me. Individuals with an excessive need of approval are always looking for validation from other people. Are you looking for someone to tell you that you're great, or do you know you're great? So think about that. Do you find yourself doing that sometimes? Frequently, there have been issues where it's a difficulty in setting boundaries of saying no. Someone is asking you a question, you really can't do it. You know, they want you to take care of their dog, or they want you to do this. And you say, yeah, I'll do that, no problem. And you do it without even thinking. You just do it because, oh, I got to do this, because if I don't do this, then this person won't like me, or they won't invite me to their party in the next 2 weeks that they're having because I didn't do something for them. So they start playing this like script in their mind, almost like a movie in their mind of how things should be played out. And if they don't do this, A, B, and C, they're not going to get D, E, F, and G. So they run that in their mind constantly. And of course, it becomes such an anxiety-producing behavior. So the long-term consequences of always accommodating one person all the time and pleasing others is at the expense of yourself. You end up being completely frustrated with this whole process, resenting it over time, because you ask yourself, why do I keep doing this when I really don't want to do this? You start to realize sometimes that what you're doing is unhealthy, but then it may be too late for you, or at least you think it is. So we got to take care of our basic needs. So within that frustration and resentment, we must find that there is some chronic anxiety going on at that time. There are many ways in which you can get over being excessively needy for approval. And the following guidelines that I'm going to give you right now are ones that can help you. Now, one of them is develop a realistic view of other people's opinions. Who is it coming from? Is it coming from someone that has a status that you agree with? And when someone is giving you this advice or this idea, you want to be able to put it into perspective. Now, it says, how do you receive it? Do you tend to take it personally? Do you see it as further evidence of your own ineptness or lack of worth? So if we have a lack of worth, obviously we're going to want people's approval, because that fills the void that we have, fills the gap. So if it's like digging a hole, and the hole's there and you want to fill up the hole, you fill it up. So in this case, you fill it up with trying to get people to approve of you, because now you feel better about yourself and you feel happy. So the next time you feel put off or rejected, take a moment to calm down and think about whether the person is acting negatively. Yeah, I'm sorry. I lost my place. I'm sorry. Yeah, next time you feel whether a person's acting negatively, is reacting to something you did, or might simply be upset about something that has little or nothing to do with you. So a lot of times, we can't take that criticism. We're very bad at criticism. So when we want the approval of other people, we can't accept criticism too much. So criticism is such an important part of life, to be able to accept that if you have a problem with that and you become defensive, then of course you're going to have issues. Now, that leads me into number 3, and that's 2. Deal with criticism in an objective fashion. Can you take constructive criticism, or do you become defensive? And if someone says you did this and that, you agree with them, and if you don't agree with them, you still agree with them because you don't want to cause confrontation. So this is where you need to be careful that you may need to be confrontational with somebody, but of course in a healthy way, and there are ways to do that. Your tone of voice, not loud. The words you use, language is very important. What words you say to someone really matters of the effectiveness of how that situation is going to get better or worse. Now, the other following guidelines are this. Evaluate the source of the criticism that you seek. If you find yourself being criticized, it is important to ask yourself, is this person making this criticism to help me? And are they qualified to make this opinion? Now, if someone says something to you and you don't agree with it, then think about this. They're not the gospel. It's not something you have to totally listen to. That's their opinion. You could always get another opinion. You could always find out if their opinion really was a valuable one and it was an honest one, or you could just let it go. 2, does the person have a bias that would make it impossible for him or her to be objective? Is this person speaking rationally or emotionally? That's something you want to think about. So ask for details that especially are important if you receive, a global criticism or blanket criticism. Someone says you're doing a lousy job. Don't accept that from somebody unless you see some value in it. Maybe question their comment of that you're doing a lousy job. Well, tell me what I could do to do it better if that's how you believe. Number 3, recognize and let go of codependency. Now, codependency is defined, as I said before, as a tendency to put others' needs before your own. So you accommodate others, such as to which you tend to discount them or ignore your own feelings and do everything for them. So your basic needs are totally forgotten or avoided altogether. Your self-esteem depends upon largely of your ability to have someone become involved in you. So the next one is number 4, right? Yes, number 4, I'm sorry. So number 4 is the tendency to ignore physical and psychological signs of stress. People with anxiety disorders are often out of touch with their bodies. So if you're anxious or preoccupied with the worrying about something, you may, in fact, be living in your head and not feeling a strong connection with the rest of your whole entire body. So, do you feel as if most of the energy is your center of gravity? Or is it situated from the neck up? You may feel a lot of tension there. So, do you feel solidly connected with the rest of your body, in touch with your chest, stomach, arms, or legs? Do you know how your entire body feels? Are you in tune with that? Are you aware? So there's sometimes a lack of awareness when someone is completely anxious. They really don't feel the rest of their body in some ways. They just so focused on something else. So to what extent are you out of touch with your body? You may ignore and unconsciously the entire range of physical symptoms that you may be experiencing as they're occurring. So examples of physical symptoms that may signify a sense of stress include the following: tight muscles, a nervous stomach, headaches, fatigue, cold hands, diarrhea, just to mention a few. Unfortunately, you become unaware that you're under this stress, and you're likely to slow down or shut down in some cases. So now, people with these issues have to understand that they need to get in touch back with that. So they need to develop a sense of what is it that they're experiencing with that anxiety. Now, so developing anxiety or depression may be viewed as a way in which your body forces you to slow down and alter your lifestyle before you push yourself into catastrophic illness or even death. Your recovery from anxiety depends in great measure on your ability to manage and cope with stress in life. And in turn, it requires you to learn certain coping styles and recognition skills that allow you to see the symptoms that you may have. So, it's very good to understand how to relieve this anxiety through deep relaxation techniques. Sometimes you can use visual imagery. I remember going through some therapy one time from a car accident. It was called biofeedback. And you listen to a tape, and you're able to close your eyes, and then you listen to music, and it allowed you to kind of slow down, because they would tell you that you're feeling something on your head, and then they would say your eyebrows, your cheekbones, your lips, your nose, every single part of your body. They would go through the whole thing. So it would take about 45 minutes, maybe almost an hour in the session, or maybe 35 minutes. I could be a little off on that. And each part of your body was discussed in that, and it was able to slowly bring your anxiety level down, or the tension you were feeling or anything like that. Those are things that can help a person with anxiety. So talking yourself through the situation. So it's good to listen to music or listen to some kind of visual imagery tape that allows you to kind of settle down and calm yourself down. When you focus on one part of your body, and then you just focus on like your fingertip, for instance, and you focus on just relaxing your fingertips, each of your fingers, 1 through 10, and you focus on each of those fingers while closing your eyes and listening to music, and you want to focus on each of those, that tends to slow you down. And the pressure, because you want to pace yourself when you're in anxiety. Your anxiety needs to be paced. You need to slow yourself down mentally, and then, of course, the physical aspect. So after your fingertips, you talk about your wrists, relaxing your wrists. and then relaxing your arm, and then relaxing your elbow, and relaxing your shoulders. And then you notice your shoulders starting to relax. And then you say your chin is relaxed, your lips are relaxed, your face is relaxed. When you come out of that, it's totally like, oh my God, you're in la la land, right? So these are all things little techniques that really help people with their anxiety. So, of course, people use medications, but sometimes it's good just to have other remedies out there to help you relax. And, yoga is a great example of that as well. If you go to a yoga class, there's hot yoga, there's regular yoga, there's all different types of yoga. There's sitting on a chair yoga. So those of you who may have some physical ailments and you really can't get out of your house and do that, you could do sit-down yoga. And they even have videos on YouTube that tell you how to do sit-down yoga. The other reference I wanted to tell you about is that I used tonight to give you some of this information. I'm just going to get it for you right now. It's a great website. It's called reggiePawle.net. So it's ReggiePawle.net. And they also talked about that. And you can look at that book that I was telling you about. It's over 1 million copies sold, and it's by the gentleman Edmund Bourne, Bourne, almost like the Bourne series, Jason Bourne movies, same spelling. So that book is a phenomenal book. As a matter of fact, I was lucky enough to get an older version at a bookstore. No, not a bookstore, I'm sorry, at a library when they were selling books. I got it for 25 cents. Believe it or not, it's a $25 book, but got it for 25 cents. So it's a phenomenal book. It's excellent. You got to check it out. Those of you who want to learn more about anxiety, it's definitely worth getting. The other thing I want to tell you about, since you're here, I want to tell you a little bit more about Getting Healthy Today. What I do and help people do is I help people with their health solutions that they may need and also financial solutions. So the health is, I take care of 4 different categories. One of them is I take care of trim. So anybody who wants to lose weight, trim down, kind of work on that. There is a section that I have. It's the trim line that I help people do. We have the 24-day challenge, and we have other products that we help people. The next one is the active line, where I promote people with different energy issues. There's Spark, there's an energy drink. There's other types of products in my website. I'll show you where that is later. Number 3, there's wellness products. So anyone that is interested in finding all kinds of wellness products, all different types of vitamins C, D, you name it, there's all formulas. There's even prostate support. There's support for your bones. We have a wonderful line of it's the Greens brand. So we have Advil Greens. They're a great product for all the people that have vegetarian needs. That is all made by plant products inside, wholesome plants with all the different nutrients. So it's called phytonutrients. PHYTO. You can check that out on my site. I'll tell you where to find that. And then the last one is sports performance. If anybody's ever seen any of the athletes out there, Drew Brees, who's our national spokesperson, 2002, Advocare. If you've seen Advocare all over the place, Advocare is a national world-class nutritional company, and they help people like myself learn how to help people with their health and also provide them the opportunity of earning an extra income and possibly maybe do that as financial freedom down the road. So one of the things I'd like you to do, if you want to get in contact with me, you can contact me Getting Healthy Today, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or reach me at vruiz@comcast.net. All right, have a nice night. I hope everybody had a great time. Take care. Bye-bye.